Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Om Namo Srimad Bhagavatam recital and discussion. We hope that you'll kindly forgive us for any offences which may occur on my account or any. Find a way. Which verse are we on?
37.
Chapter
14.
No marker in the book. 37. So the subject which we're presently hearing is in the 9th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 14, and today we're reading text 37. Am I correct? Here Prabhupada, our spiritual master, has mentioned on many occasions that, and not only that, but the Bhagavatam, the scripture itself, describes how we should go through it chapter by chapter, canto by canto, absorbing. I guess you could say with any topic of learning, one generally starts at a particular level and gradually one rises up. So we're on the 9th canto. The 9th canto is, there are 12 cantos altogether, but the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam is like the sum bonum. It's the heart, the essence of the scripture, the 10th canto. because it deals with the goal of the Srimad Bhagavatam. There's one verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the first canto, which is said to be the Paribhasya Sutra, which means the key or the verse which contains the essential objective of the text. Does anyone know what that verse is?
Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam?
Yeah, the whole verse.
I don't know.
Ete Chansta Kulam. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Long time I often forget it.
Ete Chamsa Kalapum Sam
We have that line, we have Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam.
Indradi.
Anyway, this is a verse which, and what does it mean?
Krishna is the super fountainhead of all the incarnations.
Of all the incarnations,
Nidrani Dakulam Lokam Vidayanti Yuge.
Okay, and the translation, please?
Of both mission incarnations, either plenary persons or persons of plenary persons of the Lord. But Lord Sri Krishna himself, the original supreme personality of Godhead. All of them appear in planets wherever there is a disturbance created by the atheists. The Lord incarnates to protect the theists, the devotees.
Yes,
1, 3,
is that it? 1, 3?
28.
The third chapter of the first canto describes in brief various forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He expands in various forms for various reasons in different places at different times. But the primary purpose is for protecting the, what did it say, protecting the who?
The devotees.
Devotees?
And to protect the theists, the devotees. And
Protect the devotees?
Mm,
Uh-huh.
that's all.
Okay. That's his primary purpose. Now, protection is not only what we think it is. Now, I'm speaking a little bit, there's a preface to this verse today. The Lord's purpose when he appeared, and the purpose of the devotees when they appear, pure devotees of the Lord, is to help other living entities conditioned like ourselves in this world to attain the ultimate goal of life. And what is the goal of life?
To go back to Godhead.
Back to God is very good.
Prema Pumarto Maha.
Prema Pumarta Mahan, very good. What does that mean?
Unalloyed devotion.
Unalloyed devotion, okay, very good.
The things that naturally Godhead.
Ultimate goal of life is to love Krishna. Protection in a broader sense in relationship to where we are now, 9th canto, will be entering into Krishna's pastimes. As we heard the other night, if you were with us, we described a little bit about Radha Kund. Radha Kund is considered the holiest place in the universe. The bathing place of Srimati Radharani herself, the most dear place to Sri Krishna himself. But to enter into that abode is not a material maneuver. It is a question of spiritual consciousness, qualification, spiritual qualification. The whole material world is designed not to accommodate our, let's say, desires only. That is one of the aspects. But as in a prison, it may be, you could say, to facilitate or to accommodate the certain personalities who have a certain behavior pattern. But that's not the only purpose. The higher purpose is to help or to facilitate the awakening of our, as you've mentioned, a few points there, our eternal love for Krishna, or to have to go back to Godhead, not staying here. Some will say liberation, self-realization. Different terms are used, but ultimately to come to our senses. And to understand the Kakkumbhya Dvija Shrestha Varnashrama Vibhagashta Tanishchitasya Dharmasya Samsiddhir Haritoshnam. Whatever our position may be, man or woman, whatever order of life we may be in terms of our nature, different natures are there, the objective goal of all of these various situations in the human form of life is to awaken love for the personality of God, to please the Supreme Person. The tendency is in this world that we're all living for our own pleasure, isn't it? Whether we're in an animal body, a bird body, a human body, a man body, a female body, whatever, demigod body, any kind of body it is, the tendency is in the material world is to try to please our own senses, our own desires. The purpose of human life is not that. That is described as being dharma, dharma spunushita pumsam vishvaksena kutasa no padya yadivadin shrama eva hi kevalam. This endeavor to try to satisfy one's own senses is considered in the scriptures as a shrama eva hi kevalam, a waste of time. We may not see it like that because we're conditioned the way we are. And we have our own philosophy, and we have our own concepts of life, opinions and so on. Everyone in the material world more or less has that nature. The purpose of the Lord's appearance is to help us to see things from a transcendental perspective. Now we can't directly come to that platform, so therefore in human society there are various guidelines. Nowadays we don't see so many spiritual guidelines in place. There are guidelines, but they're based mainly on sense gratification. Rules, directives, even prayers, religiosity is mainly based around sense gratification with very little indication of the ultimate goal of life. Very little. But not much. And even if it's there, it's usually without direction. So at least here, Srimad Bhagavatam is giving us direction. The whole ancient culture called the Vedic culture based on a system called Varna Ashram, which means 4 orders of life, and 4 ashrams, that means different, let's say, relationship situations in life. But here now today, some of us are married, some of us are single, some of us are very young, we're like students, stage of life. Some of us are old and, well, tired, if not retired. Different stages of life are there. But they're all meant for this one purpose, to help in the human life. You don't find this in the animal life, but in the human life, when the soul comes to the human life, it's a golden opportunity to attain a platform of consciousness above simply material. Even if we're very intelligent, Einstein, or wherever it may be, that's not the goal of life. The goal of life is to get free of. What is the goal of life? To get free of what?
The cycle of birth and death.
Cycle of birth and death, very good. What else? Old age. Get rid of old age by killing everybody before they reach old age. There are different ways of getting rid of old age. We are thinking of that in some places. Get free of birth, death, disease, and old age. Maybe go a bit further on. Maybe, yeah. Okay, what else?
The gunas.
Pardon?
The gunas.
The 3 modes of nature, to transcend the 3 modes of nature, called guna. Guna, by the way, also means rope, that which binds us, ties us up in this world. What else? False ego. What is false ego? Sometimes people misunderstand it, don't they? What is false ego?
Thinking that we are the enjoyers.
Okay, very good. False ego, a lot of times the understanding of false ego is not very clear. When we talk of ego, we mean in most cases people are actually referring to false ego. They don't see it like that. Ego is generally seen as being self-centered, selfish, self-centered, whatever, not a very good attitude, and so on. That's false ego. Ego means, in reality, what is ego?
So,
It can be said like that, but in terms of, let's say, an English definition, what would it be? Ego. Identity. Identity. And false ego means, obviously, false identity. What is that false identity?
That we are the body.
I am the body. Okay. And of course, I guess not many people think beyond it. Many of you are more in tune with what people are thinking nowadays, but in the past, not many people would think beyond the body or the mental. Mental is also body, by the way. It's separate. Beyond that bodily platform of understanding of who we are. And within that, one who acts in a materially selfish way is considered to be egotistic. But actually everyone in this world is everyone is egotistic. It's a matter whether it's false ego or real ego. What is our real ego?
Servant of
Gopi Bhatt, very nicely. Shastra statement. Gopi Bhatt Padakama, Das, 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 Anudas. This is our eternal nature. It doesn't make any difference what body we're in now. Every living entity, even if we're in a micro body, this is our eternal constitution. Right now it's covered over. We think we're the enjoyer, as somebody said just now. We see ourselves in the center, right? So human life is to start to see Krishna in the center. Whatever body we've got, why have we got a particular body?
Because of our desire.
Because of our desires and because of our
Karma.
karma. You know, you may have a woman's body now, some of you, and some of us have got men bodies. Right? Why?
because of our karma.
Are you women?
No.
Not really. You're in a woman's body. Are you men?
Yes.
Yes. I knew you were going to say that. Only you could say that. I am. Have a bit of humour sometimes. But,
Absolutely.
absolutely, absolutely, God. But absolutely speaking, are we men or women? Maybe you could say something. We're trying to be Purusha. Probably everyone's trying to be the enjoyer in this world, whatever body we're in. Purusha is the enjoyer. And enjoyed is?
Prakriti.
That doesn't sound very nice, that we're all Prakriti. Well, we are all Prakriti. Para-Prakriti we may be. But we're all Prakriti. We're all nature. We're all why are we created?
Because we want to be separate from Krishna.
In this world, yes. But in the absolute sense, why do we, let's say not created, because that infers a beginning and end. Why do we exist?
For Krishna's
For the
pleasure.
pleasure of Krishna.
Pleasure of Krishna, okay. It's just certain premises which you will have probably picked up if you read the first 8 or 9 cantos by now. Or Giri Govardhan said, Das, 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 Anudasa. We're the eternal servants of the servant, servant, servant. So we're not even eternally servant of Krishna, we're servants of the servant, servant. And so on. Well, I don't like that idea. It doesn't sound very good at all. Servant of the servant, servant. If you ask mother, ask you, what do you want to be when you get older? You say, I want to be the servant of servant, 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 servant. You think you've gone completely mad, right? You're crazy. And that's the nature of this material world. We're all thinking in terms of, I'm a kind of a master or whatever it may be. And there's a Vedic system to help transform that mentality to the absolute mentality. Because we're not satisfied, even if we're trying to be the masters. Are we really happy? You can be Prime Minister of England. Are you going to be happy? You're up with the news. No, there's no real happiness in this world. There's only temporary experiences, no doubt there. True happiness is not to be found under this false egotistical approach to life. So protection means to help save the soul, protect the soul from this illusion or from the bondage of material life, or protect the soul from birth, death, disease, and old age. And the Vedic scriptures, the ancient society of Varnashram, the scriptures, the saintly persons, the Lord himself, although it's very hard, now some of you have got kids, now who's got kids here? Lucina's got a baby, a bit early yet for that one. But you've got a son, and Harry. Dhruva's with us today, they've come from Ireland. You're Irish, right? You're pure Irish. Because we know from a spiritual point of view, you're not Irish, you're not French, you're not English or American or Danish or Dutch or wherever you're from. We're all equal spiritually. Just the body appears differently, male, female, whatever qualities it's got. But when you're raising a son, sometimes you have to teach the child. Maybe the child doesn't like to hear it too much. I was listening yesterday, Father said, generally the child likes to play all the time at a certain age. Maybe they don't like going to school. Some do, but many don't, depending on their nature. But they have to go to modern society. They have to go to school. And sometimes you have to correct them. They not like it or not like it. You're thinking it's for their benefit. Whether it is or not is another subject. But that's the idea. For your benefit. The child doesn't see it like that. We don't see it like that. When we hear it like yesterday's verse, if you were here yesterday, and today's verse probably even more so. We'll read it in maybe a few years' time. We don't see it like that because we see it through our own eyes, our own conditioning. When we judge something through our own conditioning, it's not pure. We're not understanding it clearly. We get a reflective understanding, likes, dislikes, but that's based upon our particular body, our false ego, etc. We judge things. That's why you have so many arguments in society, differences of opinion, and so much clashing going on over any topic you mention, because we're all seeing it from our own karmic, self-centered perspective. So the Vedic system takes it from there, doesn't it? You can't just jump. And gradually helps us to start to wake up and see things from another perspective, which releases us from all of these things which you've mentioned. Believe me, the types of things which we endeavour now, I mean, we've had all kinds of movements we have now very prominently in the world. We have Black Lives Matter, women's liberation, what other things are going on in terms of... What was that?
Feminism.
Feminism, I guess it's related to women's liberation, I don't know. All these things are going on. There's men's liberation going on now, by the way, under the surface. Animal liberation, someone's walking around with animal liberation t-shirts somewhere. What other types of liberation have you got going on today?
They have the latest one, Save Soil.
Pardon?
Save Soil campaign.
Save what?
Soil.
Save oil, or the whales?
Soil.
Soil.
You never heard of this one?
No, save the soil.
Yeah.
Okay, there's another one. Save the soil, save the oil, save the whale, save the whatever. Something or another. But did they work? Did we really save, were we really saving anything? No. Are we really getting liberated? Not
They
really.
talk about green energy, but they just make it worse and worse and worse.
They talk about green energy and they make it worse.
Yeah.
They know. In Malaysia, they're very good. We are greening the country. They have all these signs up. They used to. We are greening the country, and they're cutting down all the trees and make golf courses. There are like 20,000 golf courses they've made or something in Malaysia. So one every 5 miles or something crazy.
It's funny because
Greening the planet. Yeah, cut the trees down. Okay, that's like another topic. Liberation, tree liberation. On and on and on you can go, can't you? But it's not working. It doesn't solve the problem. Because they don't really know what the problem is. Problem is, we're forgetting who we are. We're identifying with the body. When we hear something which is a little bit against my concept of seeing the world, we get upset, don't we? Isn't it? We get disturbed. Someone says something about my country, my body, my family, my beliefs, my philosophy. You go on and on and on. My team, my group, my what?
My favorite food.
My favorite food. Anything you could go on with. Someone says something against it, immediately, roar, roar. They're ready for war. Men against women, countries against countries, generations against religions against religions. You name it, isn't it? This is a sure shot sign that we have not understood the purpose of life and why we're here. We're not here just to continue with or try to accommodate our condition. We're here to change it. The Vedic society was devised in this way. Maybe gradually. Protection meant that everyone in society, men, women, old people, young people, children, animals, everyone was given this opportunity, protection. Protection isn't just, that is one form, protecting us against physical aggression. That is one form of protection, that's also there. But the real protection is to protect us from becoming further entangled in this illusion of thinking I am the body. Because that's the cause of the problem. In fact, Prabhupada says the greatest sin. What's the greatest sin in this world? Does anyone know? Killing cows. Okay, that's one thing, which of course not everyone agrees with that one, that's for sure.
Keeping people
According to
in
Vedas,
illusion.
that's the greatest, one of the greatest sins, if not the Mahapapa. Huh?
Keeping people in illusion. The
Keeping
leaders
people in illusion.
Blasphemy, the devotees.
Blasphemy. You could go on and on and on about different things which appear to be very sinful. There's no end to the list. We put them in different orders as we wish. The point about keeping people in illusion, taking that one step further, Prabhupada says the greatest sin is to identify oneself with the body. Now that doesn't sound like a sin, does it? Ignorance, we could say. But it is the cause of all other sinful, pious, call it what you will, materialistic activity. Endeavor to exploit, endeavor to enjoy in this world, etc., etc., this false identity. And thus keeping people in illusion. There is no education to teach our real identity and our relationship or our position in eternity, spiritually, our real ego, our real nature. Because when we're rightly situated, you know the word disease? Break it down into two words. What's it come to?
Dis-ease.
Dis at ease. You're not at ease. You're uncomfortable. You're wrongly situated. The nature of the soul is sat. You know what sat means? Eternal. And this word is? Asat. People talk, about nature. Come on, Talk, they think materially speaking that's your real nature. It's not. It's asat. It's an unnatural situation. We're like a fish out of water. Fish out of water can never be satisfied. No matter what you put on the fish, you can put a nice coat on the fish, you can put decorate the fish with jewelry, and put a nice wig on the fish, brush its teeth, and you can do all sorts of nice things. Give it nice food, but out of the water it's never going to be happy. Just temporary release. So the soul's like that, we're out of water. And we have no knowledge of our real position. So these instructions which we're hearing in the Bhagavatam, although we're taking one here, and if you see it out of context, you go along your material concept of life. What is this? This is chauvinism. This is the men against the women, or the women against the men. It's not. You're not this body or spirit soul. It's to help free us from the danger of falling into this illusion that I'm the body. And the details, like today's verse, I'll read this, we'll read it now. We ready? Sviyaya karuna krura Durmasha priya sahasaha Ghinantya partepi vishwabdham Pating bhrataram apyuta. You have enough vegetable cutters over there? You got cutting cutting of vegetables going on or not? I saw a sack of potatoes came in. What happened to it?
So,
Finished. That was quick. Electric. Sriyaya Karuna Krura
Sriyaya Karuna Krura
Durmasha Priya Sahasaha
Durvasha Priya Sahasaha
Vinantya Partepi Vishrabdam
Narajatarepi Vishwam
Pating Brataramapyuta
Patim Brataramapyuta
Sriyaya Karuna Krura
Sriyaya Karuna Krura
Durmasha Priya Sahasaha
Durvasha Priya Sahasaha
Vinantya Partepi Vishrabdam
Janananda
Pating Brataramapyuta
Patim Brataramapyuta
Sriyoya Kurana Kura
Sriyaya Karuna Krura
Durvasha Priya Sahasaha
Durvasha Priya Sahasaha
Vinantya Pati Vishrabdam
Janananda Vishwaram
Pratim Vratarapyu Uta
Patim Brataramapyuta
Sriyoya Karuna Krura
Sriyaya Karuna Krura
Durmasha Priya Sahasaha
Durvasha Priya Sahasaha
Vinantya Partepi Vishrabdam
Vinantya Partepi Vishrabdam
Patim Brataram Apyuta
Patim Brataramapyuta
Ladies,
Sriyaya Purana Pura
Sriyaya Karuna Krura
Durmasha Priya Sahasa
Durvasha Priya Sahasaha
Vinantya Partepi Vishrabdam
Janananda Partepi Vishrabdam
Patim Brataramapyuta
Patim Brataramapyuta
Sriyaha,
Sriyaha
women.
Women
He,
He
indeed. Akarunaha.
Akurudaha
Who knows what that means? Karuna, what does karuna mean? Merciful. Akarunaha? Not merciful. Kruraha.
Kruraha
What does that mean? Cunning. You've got the book in front of your eye. Cunning. There's also sometimes means cruel. We have akrura in the next canto. There's one devotee named Akrura, which means not cruel, but here, but he's anyway, another story. So krura is cunning in this case. We've already had, or it can be mean cruel also. Dharmashaha,
Dharmashaha
intolerant.
Intolerant
Priya sahasaha,
Priya Sahasaha
for their own pleasure.
For their own pleasure
They could do anything.
They could do anything
Grinanti,
Grinanti
they kill.
They kill
Alpa arte,
Alpa
for
Arte
a slight reason.
For a slight reason
Api,
Api
indeed.
Indeed
Vishrabdam,
Vishrabdam
faithful.
Faithful
Patim,
Patim
husband. Are you there? We've already lost. Brataram,
Brataram
brother.
Brother
Api,
Abi
also.
Also
Uta,
Uta
is said.
He said
I thought it was getting too much for you there. You're fading out halfway through. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Women as a class are merciless and cunning.
Oh,
Any questions?
That's not right. It's opposite.
Yeah, we can have a here. But try to put this in the framework of you're not the body. The goal of life. Now these qualities of merciless and cunning and whatever else is mentioned here, if we have these qualities, then it's not so much just a body, it's a subtle body. It's not so much the physical body. They may go together, they may not so much go together. But it's the consciousness. It's the conscious. And Urvasi is warning us. If we want to enter into Krishna consciousness, or be able to enter into, as we said the other night, Radhakund, into this case is the pastimes of Krishna, Radha and Krishna, in the 10th canto, then we have to become free of these characteristics, whatever body we're in. But she's in a woman's body. So she's talking to Pururava to warn him, wake up, you sleeping soul. You're an illusion, don't you understand? So she's using, you could say, direct, strong words. They're not untruthful. They are there with all of us. And in this lifetime or the next lifetime, we go through different lives with different characteristics and qualities. You may be attached to being a man, you may be attached to being a woman, and you may be attached to the opposite sex, means next lifetime you'll be the opposite sex. So we're not men or women. We're going through this cycle. People who want women's liberation, maybe you'll be a man in your next life, or the other way around. It doesn't free us from anything except for illusion. You stay in illusion. It doesn't free us from it. They cannot tolerate even a slight offense. Now, I'm going to just mention one thing. I like to carry on, but we don't have an awful lot of time to go into depth here. I like to compare this also to our attempts to become Krishna conscious. For their own pleasure, they can do anything irreligious, and therefore they do not fear killing even a faithful husband or brother. Heavy words. Let's see what the purport says. King Pururava was greatly attached to Urvashi, yet despite his faithfulness to her, she had left him. Now, considering that the king was wasting his rarely achieved human form of life, Urvashi frankly explained the nature of a woman. Because of her nature, a woman can respond to even a slight offense from her husband by not only leaving him, but even killing him if required. Now, we could speak a lot on that, about the nature of people in this age which we're in, and it doesn't just apply to women, it could be anyone. To say nothing of her husband, she can even kill her brother. That is women's nature. Therefore, in the material world, unless women are trained to be chaste and faithful to their husbands, there cannot be peace or prosperity in society. Well, it's a very big topic. If we really want to get into it, and deal, let's say, with the subtleties as well as the practicalities of what we're getting at here. But I'm going to take this a little differently. The word chaste is mentioned here. Chaste means?
Faithful.
Faithful. Yeah, it says the same thing, chaste and faithful. There's not many definitions of this word. Any other meanings?
Straightforward.
Pardon?
Straightforward.
It could be. It's usually referred to sexual proclivities. It may be used in terms of religious practice. Monks were often considered chaste if they followed their vows. In terms of, society, it would be generally considered within, one would not be promiscuous within a relationship. There would be, faithfulness there to each other. It can be seen like that also. These things, by the way, if a man has these proclivities, then he's basically not a man in one sense. I mean, there's other aspects to that. Cunning or merciless and so on and so forth. And that's what we see in this age, you could say. A big overlapping of natures is going on. Big overlapping. So it's a very complicated age. Whereas in a society which is properly protected and trained, and these particular teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam were initially imparted to persons in a male form of life, who were considered to be very elevated in consciousness, not to people in general. When this was spoken by Shukadeva Goswami to one great king named Parikshit Maharaj, he was on the verge of death, and he spoke the Srimad Bhagavatam. Only assembled there were Brahminical persons who were very elevated in spiritual consciousness, and Kshatriyas, those whose responsibility it was to protect society in general, were present to hear. Why? Because it's their duty to, they could really understand the essential purpose of these teachings, which is to protect everyone else, no matter what body you're in. As we mentioned earlier, even the animals have their position to be protected. Everyone does. And that protection is incorporated within that protection in the Vedic society will be a gradual facility to elevate living entities spiritually, knowingly or unknowingly. You may be very simple-minded, not very inclined, but the whole society would be devised to give everyone that opportunity to begin and develop their spiritual awareness. Women were given protection by qualified men. If the man was not qualified, he'd be dealt with. So when we talk all these things, chastity, protection, etc., it refers especially in regards to the qualification of the husband or the males, that they had to be qualified also. They were trained also, as Prabhupada mentions here, that women were trained to be chaste and faithful to a qualified husband, not any bum on the street who doesn't follow any principles whatsoever. We'll come quick, 2 minutes questions. Otherwise we'll never get anywhere to the end. Never get to the end. In this regards, I would like to, there's just not enough time to cover it, but we can apply these principles, by the way, in our devotional practices. Let's just take one aspect of devotional service mentioned yesterday, chanting the holy names. Are we faithful and chaste towards Krishna when we chant? Or are we listening to our minds? Are we chanting with our own concept? Are we chanting the way I want? Maybe. The whole process is to chant, Prabhupada says, in the proper way, the proper process. Offenseless, we hear every morning. Vedic society, of course, Varnashram system has an aspect to gradually grow. It's protected. The Varnashram system is protected by qualified spiritual leaders. It's qualified leaders in the sense of kings, or kshatriyas, governors of society, to make sure everyone is performing their particular duty according to guna and karma, according to their nature, not according to their own interpretation or their own whims. It will be regulated, controlled, so like this. If you're a grihastha, the man has to act properly. If you're a kshatriya, you have to act properly. If you're a vaishya, properly. A woman in a body, that means it's properly. There are directions for each and every section of society to make peaceful arrangement. Like the body has different parts of the body, every part has a part to play. And if it plays its part, you get more harmonious effect. If the hand starts trying to imitate the foot, it's not very productive, not very harmonious. If you have to, you have to. In normal situations, the hand acts as a hand, not as a foot. Every part, there's nothing wrong with the foot or the hand if they play their part. Why? Because we play our part as ordained by the Lord, you please the Lord. You can grow, you can materially be peaceful, you can advance spiritually, you can attain the purpose of human life. Not man life or woman life, human life, which is self-realization, God realization. So the whole structure was designed like that. Someone was seen not performing an activity, it was the king's duty to rectify it, whoever they were. And it was the men's responsibility to see that that was done, primarily. Of course, there's a whole huge subject matter to go on and on. But when we understand the primary purpose of the whole system, the purpose of chanting Hare Krishna as well, the purpose of why we're here, it can take a different light, you could say, a different perspective. What is pleasing to Krishna? What will help liberate me from whatever? If we look in our own hearts, we probably will find a few, what we call anarthas, unwanted perspectives or desires. Huh? Probably. Whatever body we're in, we're meant to be finding that out, rooting them out. Not just accepting them as me. They're not me. That's the illusion I'm in. Identifying with my karmic reactions and my desires separate from Krishna. This is the illusion. That whole idea is that needs to change. Otherwise we're getting nowhere. This way, that way, this way, that way. The Vedic system is to regulate it. You can't stop it straight away. Regulate it accordingly. Accommodate, regulate and purify. Chanting the holy name of Krishna, even then, we're still not let's say, fully chaste. Like a wife is supposed to be chaste to a qualified husband, even if he's not qualified. In a qualified society, that can be accommodated also to a certain, at least to a certain extent. But ultimately, we're supposed to be chaste to Krishna's will. And the will of Krishna comes down through the Shastras to help free us from the bodily concept of life, free us from this idea that a man, woman, black, white, whatever it is, and realize our spiritual identity. And then we can, in any situation, it's not by getting a position that we become happy. It's not by getting, sitting and giving a class that we become happy, or leading a kirtan. No, not by these things. It's when we're actually in our heart, when we're becoming more and more feeling how I can please Krishna, connecting with Krishna, giving up all these I wants. What does Krishna want? Anyway, it's a big topic, very big topic. And this is a preparation so that we can actually enter into the next canto. Maybe one of the final ones, this identification with the body as the very beginning, this false ego, the causal reason why we, samsara cycle of birth and death, this false ego. So this really pinches the false ego. Not just of women, men also. Pinches everybody. As Madhavendra Puri was saying yesterday, what did he mention? And what was that? Very Prabhupada answer. What's that question? Do you remember? Somebody asked. Huh?
The racism?
Huh?
The racism?
Can't hear.
Racism?
Racism.
Huh?
About racism when.
Yeah, the racism question. What was it?
When
Bhakti Tirtha, when he was young. Ganesham, his name was. What did he say?
He said your disciples are racist.
Yeah, Ganesham he was in Princeton University. He was one of the top students in the University of Princeton, which is one of the top unis in America. What's up? You're not the body. Yeah, you want to read the Shastra? Come on. Long verse. Okay, that's a better verse. Let's go back here.
Sangita.
When she says ma, that's her word for Maharaj. She's got this ma. She calls everyone by their first syllable. Ma, ba, ba. Yeah, so he was a very, materially speaking, very intelligent person, and he came to the Hare Krishna movement, even though he was, I think he had a PhD or whatever. Princeton University, very high uni. And one of his first questions to Prabhupada was, it seems to me, Srila Prabhupada, that many of your disciples are a bit racist. Racist meaning, bodily identification, and you're white, I'm black, this is Jew, and you're whatever, fascist, and all these conditionings that people come from still seem to be there. And what did Prabhupada say? She's determined.
Take her out.
She is determined.
If you believe it or something, if you believe that you're the same or something.
Yeah, what did he say? No,
If you see the distinction that.
yeah,
then
black,
you're-
white, this thing, that thing. Then it's the same thing. It's the same disease. It's seeing that you're this body. You're in the same disease. Of course, it may be there. It's not to deny that it isn't there. That's another factor. But the whole point is to rise above it. Whether it's Varnashram or whether it's we're trying to chant Hare Krishna and purify our hearts with these upadis, they're called. Sarva upadi vinirmuktam tatpadadvena nirmalam. Rishikena rishikesha bhakti seva uchate. To cleanse our hearts of all these upadis is one of the primary preliminary effects of pure devotional service. That we become free of these identifications. We may use them under guidance for the right higher purpose, but not that we are dependent on it or identifying with it. And if we react like this, if we're always cunning or some kind of narcissistic mentality or something, seeing how I can manipulate things for my pleasure, me in the center, cunning and so on and so forth, or merciless. We're not even bothered how our behavior affects others, etc., etc. And we're so offended when somebody says something just a little bit out of my conception, then we're really in illusion. We're in real illusion. We're on this bodily platform of life. If it's based wholly and solely on pure Shastra, the instruction of Guru and Sadhu, and something, maybe there's a different. We may sometimes also become a little angry, but that's for the pleasure of Krishna. If somebody offends the Lord or his devotees, we may. But otherwise, on our own account, we have to check ourselves. This is we could say, a warning. Krishna's reminding, Urvasi is reminding us, are you ready? Are you still affected like this? Are you still planning for one's own fulfillment of one's conditional desires? Are we still, boom? They say it's not so much what we do, but how we react when someone points out what we do. It is the real test. It's a test of our opportunity, as we heard yesterday in the 11th canto, reading that verse in the 11th canto, how this is there's no way we can overcome these conditionings on our own. It's a test. When difficulties come along, one is supposed to turn to Krishna. Whether it's a difficulty in understanding, or whether it's a difficulty in relationship, or a difficulty of any kind, it can be seen positively as an incentive to turn towards Krishna for his merciful help, shelter. Okay, well, we better finish there. As I say, it doesn't really finish. This is a topic which needs and will obviously come up again and again in our lives. These various bodily identification statements which appear to be derogatory towards those in female bodies, sometimes those in other types of bodies, etc. Or conditionings. Again, it's the karmic reaction. So it's to free us, karma bandhana, to free us from this karmic bondage which we're in. So she's specifically trying to help Puruva. Wake up, you're in Maya. You're in great illusion, boy. Wake up, you're not doing your duty. Higher duty.
It really takes the edge off this statement if we just remember it's made by a woman. It's a woman speaking here.
Yeah, it does. This is the unique feature, and we find this many times, that it's the woman who is actually speaking to wake up the man. And you'll find many verses elsewhere, how in the third canto, how a woman protects the man, and so many other aspects, so many. Everyone's got a part to play and to help each other to come to Krishna consciousness.
May I say something?
Of course.
Like in the beginning of your class.
Pardon?
In the beginning of your class, you mentioned that Bhagavatam should be read, like probably mentioned, first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam.
First, second, third, fourth.
Yeah, slow, page after page. Now we're at the end of 9th canto.
Yeah.
And actually, like Guru Hari said, Urvashi, she lives in the heaven planet. She's extremely high elevated soul. She's not like normal.
No, she's not like we heard yesterday, some lady hanging out on the street in Paris.
She's talking in order to understand the context, instead to try to, Hare Krishna people, they're very aggressive up towards the women, they don't respect women. It's very important to understand the context, to read Bhagavatam carefully in order to reach 9th canto and understand the context by which Urvashi explains this sloka, isn't it?
Nobody can accuse Urvashi for being sexist.
From our own perspective, we can accuse everything and everybody of something or another. That's for sure.
She's the one.
No one is innocent from that perspective, you can say, from our perspective. But what is to help us? It's not to condemn, it's to release. It's not to put anyone down, it's to free us, because it's the Supreme Person who frees the soul from this world. When we're, let's say, purified of this. And this is the last, almost the last test, right, before we enter into the 10th canto. Almost the last one. It's a pretty hard one. And we can understand those who are in female bodies, it's not very easy, but still, we should discuss this in a very kind, not like this, merciless, cunning, angry. Well, I lost her. She turned the pages over. don't know where we are. What verse is it? 9 what?
1437.
14. Okay. Yeah. Not in a merciless, cunning, intolerant way. that was a large degree of that in the beginning was there, and you could say childlike mentality. We were still identifying with the body, not understanding the depths of the subject matter. Not that we do now, but maybe a fraction more than we did then. It's kind of like blinkers blinking, whatever.
Maharaj, you said about the man has to do his duty, and I just thought about something Prabhupada said. I just read in Chasing Rhinos too, that he was dealing with what he said, because the wives were complaining about their husbands. So he was dealing with the vagabond husbands, all the vagabond husbands, it was mentioned like that. And Prabhupada said very clearly that before you get married, you should have arrangement how you can support your family. That should be arranged before you get married. And then Prabhupada said that they should live outside.
Yes,
and they should make a living.
Very scientific, which Madam Gopal is mentioning here, that another symptom of Kali Yuga is whimsical, where we come together based on perhaps not very sound reasons. What to speak of what you're mentioning, even the arrangement of coming together in Vedic times was very carefully done to help both the man and the woman so they could live peacefully as much as possible together, and at the same time develop spiritually. So that's the principle is very rarely followed nowadays. Many times you don't even know each other's expectations. To speak of the husband being, making sure before he gets married, the idea of having children, there's economic foundation, etc., etc. Now for the Brahmanicals, those who are following strictly Brahminical practice in life, there's a different situation. But our modern society does not accommodate it very well. In ISKCON, to a little degree, we may be trying to accommodate that. Those devotees who take on full-time Brahminical services need to be maintained. They don't have to work separately normally for their income. They're automatically maintained. Those who are Kshatriyas, everyone gets their sustenance in different ways. So the Varnashram system will be very careful to help to clearly understand where one fits into the society, and one is given the facility to fit in according to one's nature. As long as one follows that, one's protected, given facilities, etc., etc. And the husband, the wife would also be compatible to that particular person according to his nature, man, according to their nature and situation in society. But it's a complete jumble sale nowadays. It's so difficult to analyze and understand where we fit in. There's no society to accommodate. There's no protection anymore.
But he was basically just saying that the men are lazy.
Lazy.
Plain words.
Simple as that. Lazy
Very
is a fact. Downright lazy. It's become a common denominator. Common thing. It's become very common. I'll give it, as an example. Okay, it's Kali Yuga. Uga karma means not natural. It's all this gross machinery and all these horrible things. But the neighbor next door is a farmer that way, and probably that way too. He works like anything. 2 o'clock in the morning, he's out in the field working. And he's up 9 o'clock, he starts his work again. During the planting season. He's rightly situated. Maybe, not necessarily with the way he's doing it, but in principle, producer, day and night, working. I'm not saying we should be like that, that's not our business, but it gives an example. Not lazy, at least. Laziness is nothing but gross ignorance. Gross ignorance. We're here to serve. That's the eternal nature of the soul, is to serve. Isn't it? Isn't that what our constitution is, to serve? We may serve in different ways, we may have different natures, but the principle is to cultivate this mood of service. He may be serving, I don't know what he's serving his family, serving the needs of the country, or whatever it is. He's working hard, very hard. Now it's a common thing that 4 hours a day is like a lot, but it's not.
It's
Nothing. Huh?
Nothing.
Nothing. It's like what you do in between bites. But we got air conditioning, we've got sometimes health issues, mental issues, this issue, that issue. But if we want to get out of it, we've got to do something about it. Maybe varying. Something. Can't just accept it for what it is. Some change is required in the way we see things. Perception. Not the world, but the way we perceive the world. And that's what Vedic society is for. Bhagavatam is for. Shastra, Guru, Sadhu, to try to help us to see things from a different perspective, not from our own conditional perspective only. We take that into account, but we have to try to see it from a higher perspective also. Okay, we better finish there before we're all finished. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Please forgive me for all the offences, and Hare Krishna. Please forgive me for my obeisances and accept my humble offences.
If they're just humble, it's no big. If they're just humble, then it's all right.
Hey, humble offences are okay.
Yeah.
Offensive obeisances. Didn't get much of a jai there.